Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nicole, for inviting me here. I'm just sitting here listening to the numbers. There's some pretty impressive growth happening here in Ohio. And I hope to be able to bring you some insight and some thoughts about what we're doing in Georgia and some of my personal thoughts about workforce innovation and what we're doing to help move the needle. I want to say good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all of you. You look really good. I want to thank the president, Rogers, Nicole, her staff, the elected officials, for inviting me here today to share my thoughts on workforce innovation, how we are approaching this in Georgia. We have a number of different ways that we're looking at workforce, and Georgia AIM is one of the massive ways we're tackling this topic. So we're at a critical juncture where the intersection of technology, demographics, and economic necessity is reshaping the workforce as we know it. Your conference theme here today, Workforce Innovation, creating a collaborative is the key, regional ecosystem to support an inclusive is the key economy. And I think that, as we talk today about different methods and ways that we approach this, I think we'll see that there's some pretty exciting things happening. But as we do this, it challenges us to rethink, reimagine, and recalibrate how we prepare, skill, upskill every worker in the age of rapid technological advancement. We stand on the precipice of profound change, and how we respond will determine our collective success. A few years ago, I used to tell people when I talked about this that we were in a paradigm shift, particularly when I was talking to businesses around technology and what's happening in technology. As you know, I'm at Georgia Tech, so I just absorb a lot of technology on a daily basis, just really through osmosis, because I'm on a campus where technology is being developed every second of the day. But now, while we were in the middle of a paradigm shift years ago, it's happened. And quite frankly, it's profound. It's really to see that we've moved in a different direction and things have actually shifted, particularly since the pandemic, has been really profound for me. But before I discuss what we're doing in Georgia, I'd just like to give a little bit of background of the unit that I work for at Georgia Tech. So I'm part of the Enterprise Innovation Institute. We affectionately call it EI Square. We're considered the oldest university-led economic development organization in the country, if not the world. We've been around for over 60 years. I was talking to somebody earlier about being part of the Extension Services program. We cut out teeth on Extension Services years ago. We are here, as you can see, what our mission is, and our vision is to really provide economic development solutions through our programs and to really be a change agent in communities. We want to uplift and be have a positive socio-economic development impact on the communities we serve. We have worked in all over the country. There are 159 counties in Georgia. We've worked in 28 countries, helping to develop and shore up what we call innovation ecosystems, basically focused on entrepreneurship and helping to work with universities and governments to shore up their ecosystems. We have a number of theme areas. I won't go through the whole list here. And in addition to that, we have our areas of expertise that we work in. We do this, as I said before, we do this through our economic development programs. And again, I'm not going to list them all up here, but we work in key areas. I am in the community-based engagement area where Georgia AIM resides, along with our Partnership for Inclusive Innovation and our Center for Economic Development Research. We have a firm-based pillar, if you will, and our programs that focus on serving startups, manufacturers, existing companies, small businesses is where our firm based. And then we have an EI2 Global, and that is where we actually work outside of the U.S. Again, to help countries develop and shore up their ecosystems. We too have a EDA University Center where Nicole and I met at the UEDA conference. And I, again, thank you so much for inviting me here today. So before we, the work is changing. I want to say work is changing at an unprecedented pace. And the next 5 to 10 years will be defined by four key, I want you to remember this, 4 key forces: technology, demographics, globalization, and what I call work site requirements. And so I'm gonna talk a little bit about the technology. Before we do, I'd like you to play the video, please.
When everything becomes linked with everything else, matter becomes mind, and the possibilities become endless. Imagine 50 billion IoT connected devices by 2020. Now, imagine the economic impact of these connected machines. $4 to $11 trillion per year by 2025. Wearable devices, environmental sensors, agricultural machinery, components in a vehicle, or devices in homes can all be connected to deliver insights and drive transformation. So imagine if you had smart devices in your home, your car, your workplace, or even on yourself. The world becomes alive. That's Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is making everyday objects into data factories. When Internet of Things, along with big data, meets artificial intelligence, this interface will become enlivened with intelligence, and a new world will take birth, which will increasingly talk back to us. Imagine the kind of world that it would be. Imagine the revolution it will usher in the way we see the world. The external world will become the extension of our mind, like an extension of our thoughts. Imagine a world that is responsive, a world that is optimized for human creativity, a world that is intelligent. The Internet of Things is a breeding ground for new AI-driven solutions and experiences, from self-driving cars to intelligent homes to health. Welcome to the world of endless possibilities. Welcome to AI and IoT Summit.
So this is one of my favorite videos because this happened, 2018? And here we are in 2025, and in 2018, this is what they were talking about. So I play this video sort of to level set where we are today, and when I say that the paradigm shift has happened, it has already happened in 2025. And so when we talk about technology, we know that technology is important for business growth. It is central to business operations, customer interactions, and competitive strategy in the modern economy. A digital presence in e-commerce reaches a global audience and taps into e-commerce revenue streams. Operational efficiency is important and is achieved through streamlining operations and reducing costs. Data analytics and decision-making drive business strategy using actionable insights. And technology can also drive product innovation by helping to create and market product offerings. But it also unlocks growth, right? It unlocks growth. And at AI automation and robotics is, let me see, let me just go back a minute here. There you go. It unlocks growth. So you have AI automation and robotics is augmenting nearly every industry, streamlining operations and shifting the skills in demand. Routine and repetitive jobs are being automated, but entirely new roles are being developed. And so while there's a fear of automation and AI taking jobs and causing jobs to go away, new jobs are being developed. Who knew years ago that we would have a prompt engineer as a viable career, right? And so we know that as we see technology evolve over time, new jobs come online as well. The transformative power of artificial intelligence is being realized at the speed of light, enhancing efficiency, customer satisfaction, and scalability. The Internet of Things, as you saw here, IoT, sensors are revolutionizing industries. They're helping us develop smart cities, tracking data, tracking movement and patterns of transportation and how people move, how people work, how people operate every day. They optimize our resources use, help us reduce waste, and also increase yields. And we use quite a bit of sensors in our project at Georgia AIM that we'll talk about a little bit later when it comes to putting sensors on the manufacturing equipment and helping them with preventative maintenance. The impact of autonomous vehicles on transportation, including delivery drones that we're using now, self-driving trucks, and contribute to cost-effective logistics, faster deliveries, and reduced emissions. I am always flabbergasted when I'm on Georgia Tech's campus and there's a little robot going by me with food and delivering food to the campus. And I'm saying, wow, this is great. This is really crazy. Clean technologies' role in sustainability, such as solar panels and wind turbines and energy production, provide cost savings, environmental responsibility, and market competitiveness. Digital marketing and analytics help companies leverage digital marketing tools, including social media analytics for targeted advertising, improving their ROI, customer insights, and market reach. And finally, the advantages of cloud computing, which I'm sure many, if not all of us, use today, and collaboration tools provide scalability, accessibility, and cost efficiency. But another major force that's happening today is the shift in demographics, something that we all need to identify and realize. Aging populations in developed economies, coupled with a burgeoning younger workforce in emerging markets, will create both challenges and opportunities for us in workforce innovation. For example, according to the Census Bureau, the median age of America is up by 0.2 years to 38.9 years, while 70% of Africa's population is under 25. I was just in Africa last week in Tanzania, Zanzibar, and Kenya. And in Tanzania, while 70% of their population is under 25, half of that population is under 19. And so these are just two examples on the opposite extremes of how demographics are changing. Today in America, we have 4 generations working. We have the baby boomers, Generation X, Millennials, and Generation Z. And then there's another one emerging, Alpha, that's emerging into the marketplace, and in fact are actually working. Some of them are 17 and 18, they're actually in the marketplace right now. So really we have 5 generations working side by side in the marketplace today. So we must embrace this intergenerational collaboration and lifelong learning as the new normal. We must think and act innovatively to accommodate the different generations, meet workers where they are, and collaborate to ensure that we are building a workforce, what I call of the future, and not necessarily for the future. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. The next one is globalization. Talent is now borderless. It's now borderless. The gig economy, digital nomadism, and hybrid workplaces all require new policies and workforce strategies to ensure inclusivity and competitiveness. The pandemic of 2020 is an example of how critical globalization is to the workforce. Now, I don't want to get into it, but we all know that the supply chains were severely impacted during this time. However, during the pandemic, manufacturers, and this is what this slide shows, that manufacturers utilizing digital solutions, found themselves better positioned to weather the storm and were able to move faster and further than their peers. As they grappled with the new normal and attempted to build the foundation to deal with future crises, accelerating the adoption of digital technologies made it to the top of their list. And according to a survey by the National Association of Manufacturers, more than 85% of the manufacturers surveyed felt that the pandemic accelerated their use of what we call Industry 4.0 technologies. It either accelerated their use significantly or somewhat greater. So this is really an important point for us to look at. And then finally, what I added was what I call work site requirements. Remote, hybrid, and on-site working have become key factors in the development of the workforce. According to a recent article by Gallup, and I encourage all of you to read it, it's called The Post-Pandemic Workplace, The Experiment Continues. That's the name of the article. Again, it's called The Post-Pandemic Workforce, The Experiment Continues. In 2019, most remote-capable employees whose jobs could be done at least partially at home worked solely on-site. They worked on-site. 60% of them worked on-site, while about 1 in 3, or 32%, were hybrid, and about 8% worked exclusively remote. When the pandemic hit in March 2020, 70% of those now remember 60% were working on site, 70% of those that could work remote capable employees shifted to working exclusively from home. Today, more than 4 in 5 of these employees have some degree of remote flexibility, with 55% working hybrid, 26% exclusively remote, and 19% exclusively on site. So this really matters. I mean, the way that we work today, how we work, where we work, is really important for us to consider when we're thinking about workforce development, workforce innovation, the intergenerational workers, and how we meet people where they are. With this reality, though, Gallup does list 10 areas of change in the workplace. I'm not going to read them for you, but I do want to say, I do want to point to a couple of things. We talked about the shift to remote and hybrid. We're even hybrid in our shop. And I must admit, as a vice president and manager, it does bring some challenges to me, because I grew up in a culture where I came to work every day. And what I see in this environment is I see the pros and the cons. And the pros is that people are flexible. Sometimes you can get a lot more done work at home than you can in the office. However, as we bring our younger generations into the workforce, what I do see is the inability to be able to nurture and nurture the next generation. When I came up, I might be on the elevator with the president of the university, right? I just may run into some CEO coming into the office building. And so with the move toward hybrid work and remote working, I find it to be much more difficult to mentor and to develop a culture that we may want in our workplace. And the polls and the surveys and the studies are showing that. They're showing, that there's a fall in employee engagement. Well-being is really critical and it's important, particularly to the younger generation. There's somewhat of a detachment to the workplace. There's a lot of disruption. So, especially the younger generations are navigating this disruption. They may not have the skills that we have developed over time for navigating disruption in our workplace. And then and I found this interesting, that there was a decline of respect. 4 in 10 employees felt respected at work. And I don't know whether it's about respect. I really don't. I'm trying to dig down more into the article, more so than that detachment. If you don't really get to know your coworkers the way we used to, you don't have the water cooler, drinking coffee together. These things matter, I think, for me, as we look at how we do workforce innovation and development, that we have to consider all these factors. There's no one size fits all, and that's also a challenge, because there's no one size fits all. And then there's the emergence of the AI revolution. So let's talk a little bit about pivoting and regional pivoting and turning these challenges into operations. So how do you, as a region, how do we in Georgia, our region for my project, Georgia AIM, is the entire state. We have 159 counties in Georgia, 159 different policies, personnel, people, places, and things to work with. But we must invest in education and training. We must do that. And we must do it in somewhat of a traditional way, but also in non-traditional ways. A proactive approach to workforce development must include industry-aligned curricula in both higher education and vocational training programs. We just cannot go at it alone. We have to have industry, and I would also say others at the table, not just industry. And at Georgia AIM, we're doing that. You'll see, the community is not just industry, the community is the community. And whatever that is for your particular region, your particular community, they need to be at the table. Public-private partnerships. Companies, educational institutions, governments, nonprofits, as I said before, must all work together to create pathways for upskilling and reskilling. And the representative, Williams spoke earlier about his pathway. And I think that that's really critical for us to reshape our thinking away from a career, a job, into your pathway. Like, what is that individual's pathway? What is your child's pathway to success? And I grew up where you went to college. I was the first one in my family to have a college degree. You go to four-year college, you get a degree, you go to, you work for a company, and in that case, I don't want to tell my age, but you work for a company for a lot of years, you retired. But, that is not the case anymore. The pathway is up and down and circular. I should have a picture up here. I'm reminded of a picture I saw of a jungle gym. And that's kind of how, our pathways are today. You can start out one way. You can go to college. You cannot go to college. You can go to the military. You cannot go to the military. You can go right into a company and start to work. But one of the things your president said earlier, and I truly, truly, truly believe in, no matter what your pathway is, education is there along the way. Lifelong learning and education never, ever stops. So whether it's a four-year degree, a two-year degree, a certificate, a course online for free, education never stops. And that is where we in the room, educators and academia, play a really, really critical role. Infrastructure for innovation. Beyond training, we must build digital and physical infrastructure that supports remote work, automation, and new industries. And we'll see that in some of the things that we're doing in Georgia AIM around building labs and things of that nature. And then finally, of course, policy adaptation. Policymakers must create adaptable labor laws, social safety nets that support workers transitioning between jobs and industries. We move between industries. A lot of the industries are interconnected now. And so, being able to help our workers move through their career pathways and their jobs and industries is really important. So what is the role of automation, AI, and robotics? AI and automation are often seen or met with skepticism and concern. But history has shown that technological advancements create more opportunities than they displace. But the key is preparation. And I think, and I might be, because I'm at Georgia Tech, I see a lot of preparation going on a daily basis for technology, but there's still some gaps. So we must embrace AI as a collaborator, not as a competitor. It enhances the human potential, increasing productivity and unlocking new avenues for creativity and problem solving. Redefining jobs, not eliminating them, is important. Jobs will evolve, and I mentioned that earlier. Jobs will evolve rather than disappear. I did have a statistic where something like 8.5 million jobs will disappear, but over 9 million different new jobs will be created as a result of this evolution and revolution in AI. And I would say not just AI, but smart technologies in general. So workers must be trained in AI literacy, data-driven decision-making, and human-centered skills that technology cannot replicate. And then, of course, we have to create ethical and inclusive AI. The development and deployment of this AI must prioritize fairness, accessibility, and equity to avoid exacerbating already existing disparities in all of our communities, whatever those disparities might be for your particular region or community. So preparing the workforce of the future. The foundation of a resilient workforce lies in 3 core areas: upskilling and lifelong learning, inclusion and equity, and building a culture of agility. Education should not end after college, and we talked about that, or technical training. Continuous learning through, and you talked about your micro-credentialing, certifications, and on-the-job training will be critical, so we all think alike here. Inclusion and equity, innovation must be inclusive. Workforce strategies must ensure that all groups, older, younger, rural, those that may be in low wage, women, veterans, black and brown, I could just go on and on because communities are different depending on where you are, must have access. And then we have the organization and individuals must adopt a growth mindset, embracing adaptability as a core competency. And so we can't be rigid in our thinking. We must adapt and listen and learn from those who we're helping to develop. You know, they can teach us as much as we can teach them. And so to illustrate what I've been discussing, I know you're here to learn about what we're doing in Georgia with Georgia AIM. I would like to introduce you to our major statewide project that I'm currently co-directing, and that is the Georgia Artificial Intelligence and Manufacturing, or Georgia AIM. So Georgia AIM was launched 2.5 years ago. Through a $65 million grant with the Economic Development Administration. And since its establishment, we have garnered significant investment, including from the state of Georgia, from our industry partners. And it's now a project with over $120 million in investment, including the original grant. Georgia's AIM's goal is to revolutionize the industrial economy of Georgia through the development and deployment of talent and innovation across all manufacturing sectors. It is a coalition, as you see here, originally of over 40 partners throughout the state, working together with 8 major projects, and one project, which is one of the major ones I lead on the community engagement, has 8 projects on it. So between the sub-projects and the projects, there are 16 projects actively working in the state at one time. This was a new model, a relatively new model, coalition model, that EDA implemented 2.5 years ago. And I can say, as one of the co-directors of it, is that the beauty of it is that it was 16 projects out in the state working at one time. So when we executed the grant, if you will, and it began to execute the grant, everyone was out there, you know, performing their scopes of work. And so that's been the beauty of it. And so we were able to achieve successes. It's a little bit challenging in some ways to manage, but fortunately, we've been fortunate in Georgia that we have a really, really dedicated group of coalition partners whose mission is to make sure that Georgia AIM succeeds. So we have a really strong, Georgia Tech is the lead applicant for this, which is a 4-year institution, but we have a really, really strong working relationship with our Technical College System of Georgia, TCSG. And so we're working side by side with them to develop curricula, to help work with industry, to build labs, innovation labs. We have a project with our Technology Association of Georgia, where they're actually serve as our placement agency, where they're helping to place individuals into jobs. We have a massive job board with them. We have a Middle Georgia Innovation Project where we're funding a STEM academy and helping with the robotics competition. We have a robust K-12 program. Our Southwest Georgia Regional Commission leads to Southwest Georgia. We're building an AI disaster hub to help predict disasters that are coming. And so we have this massive group. We have our cyber center in Augusta. The nation's cyber center is in Augusta, Georgia. They're training students and giving them certifications on cybersecurity. They're going in and doing assessments in manufacturing facilities. So we have this robust group of individuals and organizations all working together on a day-to-day basis, collaborating together to ensure that we, again, develop and deploy innovation and talent. So one side of Georgia AIM is focused on the innovation. That is, how do we help particularly our small to mid-sized manufacturers? How do we help them deploy innovation within their manufacturing facility? How can we help them move the needle? How do we work with companies and industry through and you'll learn a little bit, one of our major projects through our advanced manufacturing facility, our AI advanced manufacturing facility. How do we bring new innovations to market and help startup companies who may have innovations in AI and smart technology? So we're really focused on the innovative side, but then as you'll see and as I talk, all of these projects have workforce component in it, built in to the projects. So by nature of the fact that they're executing the project, we're helping to execute workforce development. We have a strong commitment from industry and support from the state, which enables us to achieve results throughout the state. So we focus on innovation, education, collaboration, and participation. Innovation, education, collaboration, participation, serving 4 pillars: manufacturers, innovators, educators, and of course our workforce. Artificial intelligence in manufacturing is our focus, but supply chain plays a key role. So in Georgia, supply chain and logistics is a critical component of the state's economy, touching the Port of Georgia, a robust rail and interstate road network, and the busiest airport in the world. But with an increase in natural disasters such as hurricanes, tornadoes, flooding, and fires, AI is an essential tool for keeping goods moving. What makes us unique as a regional ecosystem, as I mentioned before, is the workforce. And so the integration of AI and other technologies in the supply chain, it isn't just a distant prediction, but rather an ongoing reality. And as more companies incorporate AI and technology tools, job roles change, requiring the upskilling. So for companies to see a benefit in AI, they also need a trained, agile workforce that can understand and adapt to these needs. Georgia AIM is massive. It's a massive initiative to develop that workforce. And as I always say, we want to develop the workforce of the future and not for the future. Because it may be AI today, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, it'll be something else. So we want to make sure that as we train our workforce, we're training them, to be able to respond to a future that we really, quite frankly, don't know what it might look like 10 years from now. So it is our vision of how the workforce will help shape the future of Georgia's economy and eventually our entire country. We're engaging with communities across the state, including the rural towns, underserved urban areas, and populations underrepresented in manufacturing, such as Black and brown populations, women, veterans, people without a college degree. We're just making sure that we want to tap any and everybody who is interested in participating and that we can help them participating. We're also focused on our K-12 pipeline to ensure that we are preparing individuals of all ages. Our projects meet these communities where they are. and develop programs that work for them. So we've had a number of focus groups across the state to understand what a project may need in South Georgia is different from what they may need in North Georgia. We want to ensure we are building a workforce that not only responds, as I said, to the AI of today, but what is that AI going to be in the future? Now, I'd like to say that we're developing a pipeline. People typically say K through 12. I say K to gray. That's what my pipeline is, K to gray, because Georgia AIM has programs that connect AI and smart technologies with K through 12 students through programs such as our robotics competitions that I mentioned earlier and our K through 12 Adventure Prize. Both programs work in school districts across the state to nurture creative problem solving and technical knowledge. Workforce development through new programs at technical colleges that I mentioned as well as incorporating AI into projects at historically black colleges and universities, or HBCUs, and R1 research institutions. Georgia AIM also supports internships and apprenticeships and fellowships, programs for those entering the workforce, and upskilling programs for those looking for new roles working with technology. Public-private fellowships through our Partnership for Inclusive Innovation, connect research programs with real-world solutions. We also work with manufacturers and entrepreneurs across the state to build a more resilient, efficient manufacturing sector that will provide good-paying jobs for decades to come. And I mentioned that a little bit earlier about how we're working with our small, particularly our small to mid-sized manufacturers. We provide startup support to innovators working with technology, as I mentioned before. We've worked probably with over 600 startup companies that have from idea to actually helping them commercialize their products. Our mobile studio, which we launched last year, provides access to emerging technologies to all ages, empowering anyone, no matter where they are located, to connect with AI and smart technology. And so finally, we update the numbers a little bit, Nicole. We have now served about 3,000 students, over 16,000 individuals, and 3,500 manufacturers. And so to illustrate my point really quickly, I'd like to just give you a couple of examples. I think the examples will really, let's bring it to the face and who we've really impacted. So here's Angie Brennan. She's a teacher in rural Dooley County, Georgia. Angie attended the Middle Georgia Robotics Institute funded by Georgia AIM. This gave her the teaching tools to lead a robotics team. She went back, and this is a really rural county in Georgia. She went back to her school and formed the Dooley County Middle School Cats, and earlier this year, they qualified for the Super Regionals. So our K through 12 robotics program supported by Georgia AIM are just one example of how we're impacting communities at a grassroots level and developing our workforce. Alex Wilson is a third-generation pecan farmer who sends his products all over the world. And this is a really interesting story because he is focused on the customer experience and wanted to provide free shipping to his customers. But with 3 different shipping companies, he was struggling to keep costs low while providing this service. Our rural supply chain program provided Wilson, and his company is called Sunnyland Farms, with a summer intern, and who used AI to analyze thousands of shipping addresses. Using the results, Alex negotiated a preferred rate with one shipping company, which saved him literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. He reinvested his savings into solar panels for his facility, adding to his future savings. Michael Trigger separated from the U.S. Air Force in 1989 and then spent the next decades working in telecommunications and transportation. In recent years, he became intrigued by the idea of training computers to understand language. So he enrolled in a new AI-enhanced robotics manufacturing program at the Georgia Veterans Education Career Transition Resource, or Vector Center, in Middle Georgia, and graduated among the second cohort. I think we might be up to 4 or 5 cohorts now to receive the specialized certification. So we opened an AI-enhanced robotics lab at the Veterans Center. And so we did that right near Warner Robins Air Force Base. So we work with the base and we work with industry to develop the lab so it has an actual production line. And so the veterans learn, how to set up production, change lines, work with robots, program robots, et cetera, et cetera. The next one is Kayla Calloway. Is a recent high school, this is one of my favorites. She's a recent high school graduate from Valdosta in South Georgia. She made professional marketing tools and learned about analytics through the Innovation Lab at Wiregrass Technical College. And her business, KB Skin Soap, won the 2024 Georgia Future Leader Entrepreneur Program of Flex Competition. She won $10,000. And, so she was next week, the winner for 2025 will be announced. And Georgia AIM is proud to have a stake in this program. And I've got a couple of more before I end. We have our Partnership for Inclusive Innovation, which is another project that focuses on fellowships. So what we do with this program, the fellows are 1 to 5 years out of school. So many of them are either in their first job or looking to move into their first job. And Reagan here is our current one. She has, we've placed 4 recent college graduates as fellows. So our current AI, she's our current AI manufacturing fellow. And what they do, they spend 6 months with the private sector and 6 months with the public sector. So they get both sides. Her fellowship, first had her working on an AI algorithm that analyzed CAD drawings, and now she is working with a semiconductor manufacturer. We've also launched and will debut 10 internships with manufacturers to further connect university-led innovations. In Augusta, Samantha Bannister is now certified to conduct cybersecurity assessments, site assessments through our Georgia Cyber Innovation and Training Center. So we're working with Augusta University there to train students. And then finally, entrepreneur Tia Robinson is working with us, partnered with our Advanced Technology Development Center, which is the oldest high-tech incubator in the country. And she has launched her company, Vertical Activewear, to decrease waste in the fashion industry. She is working with ATDC to develop software that predicts clothing demand and reduces overhead costs. So these are some, examples of individuals who we're touching with Georgia AIM. We have many, many more examples, but these are some of the ones that just give the breadth and scope. We've taken sort of like an all-hands approach to our workforce development. So as I close through these efforts, like I said, we are seeing the results. The 2,000 jobs, 3,500 manufacturers, and connecting with 6,000 residents. Last fall, we increased our capacity even more when we launched our Georgia AIM Mobile Studio. We did in October, we launched our first ever Georgia AIM Week, and this new outreach model allows us to connect with hundreds of people across the state. So the Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurship partnered with the University of Georgia. They built this huge mobile studio. They have also portable vignettes that they can take out to sites and show communities and kids and people about AI and technology. And this is just the beginning. In addition to debuting our Georgia AIM studio, last fall, we finalized new AI-focused pilot projects in communities across the states. And that's where we're really working closely with our technical college to open these labs. So when I talked earlier about not only training and education, but also we have to build the physical infrastructure, we're looking at how we can put labs, innovation labs into our schools so that students can not only learn the theory, but they can also have some practical hands-on work. And finally, we are building a 65,000 square foot AI manufacturing pilot facility that will serve as a demonstration facility for companies to test products and services. This facility also serves as a training ground for students and potential employees. So right now we have a 20,000 foot, well, we're almost finished, so it's more than that. But it started as a 20,000 foot AI advanced manufacturing pilot facility. But through investment not only with Georgia AIM, EDA, but through private investment from Georgia Tech. They're building a 65,000 square foot AI, advanced manufacturing pilot facility. So as we adopt AI, we also recognize this unprecedented opportunity to change the future of who has access to manufacturing. That's been our main thing. It's like we want to make sure that we make manufacturing cool again. That is not the 4 Ds, dark, dirty, dangerous, and dull. We learned over the 2.5 years that many people, many kids, families, parents had not even been in a manufacturing plant. So our next 1.5 years, we're focused on parental education. We're launching a parental education program. We're going to be doing more tours where we actually take students into the current manufacturing plant, the Kia plants and things like that, so they can actually see that it's not, that it has changed. I should say that manufacturing has changed. And so as I mentioned before, we are focused on developing the workforce of the future and not for the future. And so again, we must meet communities and individuals where they are. We're training them from K to grade. We train them, and as I said before, we're doing this a number of ways. Robust K through 12 programs. We're providing, new training programs. We're upskilling, reskilling, skilling. We've really taken a 360-degree approach to how we're doing workforce development and actually throwing some things up on the wall to see if they stick. And because, again, we've got 5 generations in the workforce today, and how the baby boomers may need to be retrained, particularly if they're coming out of retirement or they're wanted to move on to a different skill. I think earlier someone spoke about being able to move the economic wealth from, or salary from 40,000 to 60, 70,000. We know that can happen through manufacturing. We know that those jobs that are repetitive will more than likely be replaced by robots. And so we want to make sure that our individuals in workforce are skilled to program the robots and manage them and maintain them. So how can upskilling affect the supply chain? Just really quickly, an example was last year, there was a strike. I don't know if you remember that there was a strike with the longshoremen, the East Coast ports, halted all shipping for several days. And one of the things we found is like, why did this happen? Their concern was automation. They were one of the major things in their contract they were negotiating was automation. It was like, wow, I didn't realize that they weren't being trained and educated around automation and how it might affect their jobs in the future. Well, automation has come to the ports. It's already there across the country and around the world. So supply chains are evolving from rigid and monolithic single-fit delivery processes to complex, agile, networked ecosystems. That's what they are today. They're not linear anymore. And so we want to make sure, again, that because they are complex and interrelated, there's even more opportunity for our workforce, even more opportunity for an individual, a kid, or a young person to find their career, their pathway that I talked about earlier. So by investing in automation in our supply chain, upskilling employees, and increasing efficiencies at manufacturers across Georgia, we are making our workforce and economy more resilient. So this is why workforce training is important. By empowering Georgia's employees across all sectors to use and work alongside AI and smart technologies, we can turn that fear of AI into a tool in our collective toolbox, turn it into a tool using its power for good. So as I close, I want to talk about key lessons that we've learned. Proactive change is better than reactive adaptation. Regions that anticipate and embrace, and you guys are doing that here today, I love it, Nicole, it's great, this is great. Regions that anticipate and embrace workforce shifts will emerge as leaders in economic growth. So I know Nicole gave us some statistics, some really good statistics today, showing some of the shifts that are happening here in your region. So what are some of the other shifts that are demographic or more on the ground or grassroots that you need to be aware of? Anticipating them and embracing them you'll help emerge as a leader. Collaboration is essential. No single entity, and we've all talked about that, whether it's government, industry, or academia, can tackle these challenges alone. Synergies across sectors are essential. And the synergy that we've been able to develop in Georgia is, I feel really blessed. We have, like I said, we have a really, really good group of coalition partners who want to make sure that we succeed. So we've been collaborating, we've been figuring out how to integrate. Where do we collaborate? Where do we actually integrate? Those two things are slightly different. Human-centered innovation wins. Technology should serve humanity, not the other way around. And so we're really, really focused that the future belongs to those who leverage technology to enhance human potential. One professor I heard give an overview of AI and about the fear of AI taking jobs. And he said, no, AI won't take jobs. People using AI will replace people who don't use AI. And I say that to our businesses that we talk to. Businesses who are using AI as technology will replace those that don't. It's simple as that, they will. And so we try to make sure, particularly our small and mid-sized companies, understand this, but how can we help them and give them the tools and resources? And finally, failure to act is the greatest risk. The pace of change will not slow down. It is moving exponentially fast. If we do not prepare today, we risk leaving large portions of our workforce behind. And we don't want to do that. And so my closing thought, as we look to the future, our collective responsibility is clear: to accelerate workforce innovation so that all workers, and I do believe that any and everyone who wants to participate should be able to participate in this economy and in the workforce and benefit from technological progress. The future is not something that happens to us. It is something we create. Together, we can build a workforce that is adaptable, inclusive, and empowered to lead the age of AI, automation, and beyond. So I thank you for listening to me. I hope you were able to gain some thoughts from this. I'll be around for the entire conference, and thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.